Hello, welcome to another episode of Mastering Adam, becoming the best Adam for your Eve. My name is Casper Stockham, and I'm so excited. I have a great guest on today, a great guest host. His name is J.R. Spear, and we're going to get to him in just a quick second. What I want to do first is talk about our sponsor to the show, which is I Am Love Builders. And my wife and I wrote a book several months ago called Divorce Proofing Your Marriage. And we are very excited because that book hit the #1 hot new release list on Amazon just for a quick second. So we're excited about that. We also have a free ebook that you can grab from our website at iamlovebuilders.com. You can get that free ebook. It has the first 5 chapters of our book, and those first 5 chapters are loaded with great information. Get that free by going to iamlovebuilders.com. All right. So now the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. JR. So JR is a resilient entrepreneur and the founder of Creed Consulting and the Business Leader Network, which we're going to be getting into hopefully. And also the website is blncommunity.com. JR, please introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about BLN.
Yeah, well, Business Leaders Network is we want to attract small business leaders and to be able to help give them the tools and resources that they need that can help them start, grow, even scale their businesses. So everything from resources on the knowledge, connecting them with the right people that are out there doing it. And we're actually going to be creating something called your Give Back program, where people that excel at a certain level in their business, they're out there teaching and helping people grow, but just making sure that they have the support system, the network, the referral partners that they need. That's going to really help them grow. So it's an awesome community that we've built that's mixed with combination of mastermind training calls, networking calls, huddle groups that we're launching here soon. We do a lot of in-person events throughout the year. We have an event this Thursday in the DC area, which is just a free networking thing, but we have mastermind classes in person. We do summits in person. We're going to do boot camps in person, and just a really, really great opportunity to just bring community together and to really help each other, hold each other accountable, but also help each other grow, both personally and professionally, and it become more of a family. So everyone inside of there that we get to know on a deeper level ends up becoming very close to our everyday life. So I love it. So anyone that's interested and want to be part of it, just come as a guest. Go visit blncommunity.com, click on Get Started, and then once you put your information in there to register, you'll be emailed times of calls and classes and training that you can come in, get plugged in, try us out, see if it's a good fit before committing to see if it's going to be your home.
Yeah. So folks, I can tell you personally, because I have been a guest on many of the BLN events. I've also been interviewed by some of the BLN members, and I got a chance to meet JR in person here in Colorado, here in the Denver area several months ago. So this is a great network, and my wife and I are excited to be an official part of it. I feel like I'm a part of it already. We've been so active and stuff, but we'll be an official part of it here shortly, and definitely will be taking advantage of it. So I appreciate you, JR.
No, thank you. And I'm excited to get you plugged in because we love having awesome leaders like you and your wife to be part of our community.
Amen. All right. So today on Mastering Adam, we're going to talk about the first mistake men make in relationships. Now, we're talking about Adam. We're talking about men. We're talking about male men. I can't help anybody else out in that category, but I'm talking about male men. There's some mistakes that we make. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about these mistakes. And hopefully my wife will be launching Mastering Eve. So I'm really trying to talk her into it because there are some mistakes women make as well. But right now we're talking about men. And the first one is not honoring the marriage and our partnerships. And this is actually a chapter in our book that we talk about this because men have to be careful. God created Adam and Eve, right? Created the marriage institution. And we need to take that more seriously. The commitments that we make, the marriage vows that we make sometimes are very weak. We need to be serious about that. It's a covenant. It's not a quick little contract. You go down to the government and sign a little note. No, this is a covenant. It's something you need to take very seriously. And, I try to behave when I'm away from my wife the same as I would behave if she was there. In other words, she's always with me, right? So the things that I do, the people I talk to, how I talk to them, I mean, all these things matter when it comes to, my performance away from my spouse. What are your thoughts on that, GR?
First off, I want to say is, this is a tough subject to be talking about for myself because, I've never always, I've had a rough marriage. I mean, I have a beautiful wife. We've been together 19 years this November, and we just celebrate 14 years of marriage. And there's many times, even of the recent, where we both want to just throw in the towel and saying, hey, you know what, we just can't do it. So I personally don't necessarily feel qualified enough to say, hey, you know what, I can't really tell people how to actually speak on this, but what I can speak is from mistakes that I've made and, the place of where me and my wife are at and where we're going and what we're committed to achieving. And it's funny. It's funny how we're in this conversation because me and my wife just talked about this the other day about next year. We really want to commit and renewing our vows because we got together, she was 18 years old. I was 19 years old. She's the most beautiful thing on this earth that I've ever seen. And she couldn't tell, like, no one could tell me anything different. And even when we were dating, she tried breaking up with me many times, and I would always still show up on her doorstep. And I'm in the military station at Quantico, Virginia. She grew up in Northern Virginia and just very focused on school and dance and church activities and all these different things. And I was like, this is mine. I'm not going to let it go. And the funny story is the church that I met her. So we met in church, but the church that I met her at was like an hour and a half from base. And the way that I ended up finding that church was a girl that I was kind of dating, and we weren't serious or anything. There was nothing ever between us, but she invited me to this church and we went there for a couple of services. Well, I went one time with her and ended up still going by myself and not with her. But I ended up seeing my wife, and they have this frontline service. Now, this is a mega church. I mean, there's like 30 to 50,000 plus people that go there. But they had this frontline service that was all college age group. But then they had a smaller group that was called the Gathering, and it was all 8 college age people that went there. And she's in the front row and she's worshiping, and I'm in the back with some Marines that I brought into the service. And I looked at one of the Marines and I go, hey, his name was Zagny. And I go, hey, Zagny, you see that girl up there? She's worshiping. She has this long, beautiful, dark hair, super fit, toned abs. I mean, and she just totally, embraced and got in the Holy Spirit, just worshiping, giving everything. And I never even saw her face. I never even saw her name. And I go, hey, Zagny, that girl's going to be my wife someday. And the month later, we ended up going on our first date, which was at the Marine Corps Ball. And 5 years later, we ended up getting married. And we end up spending the first year dating locally in Northern Virginia. Then I get the call saying, hey, you're being shipped off to Iraq. So I end up getting transferred to California with 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, and deployed to Iraq in 2006 to 2007. And so we didn't talk for a year because, we didn't have any phones at the time where I was at. And
you were married at the time?
We were not married. So
okay.
we were just dating at this time. And then when we came back, it was a very long year deployment. And when I got back, I proposed to her almost like the second day. And the funny thing is I was part of a MU. So it's called a Marine Expeditionary Unit. And the MU, we took ships over to Iraq. So I was in the Navy, but I was attached to the Marine Corps, but I was a passenger on these Navy ships. Yeah. So we took Navy ships and made it, stopped a couple different places. One of the places that we stopped in was Singapore. Well, when we were in Singapore, it was at that moment, it was a worldwide jewelry fest. Like some of the biggest jewelers across the world were there at this time. And so I ended up buying her an engagement ring at that time. Wow. And when I bought her engagement ring, and I ended up taking it, and I had it. It was the exact way I wanted. She loves Irish and Celtic type things, so it had like that type of look to it. And I put it in my left breast of my uniform, and did not take it out of there until the day we got back. I mean, every day when I'm walking out and patrolling the city, I'm like constantly mixed. Is it there? Is it there? So I always like to say it was her that kept me alive and alert. Between keeping her in mind, but also the Holy Spirit guiding my steps. Sure. But the reason why I bring this up because there's a lot of things that we went through to be able to get to where we're at, and even throughout our marriage, we didn't really have that time to really court each other. We had that first year, and then 4 years of it was long distance. A year of it we didn't talk because I was in the military, And when we got married in 2009, it was like we came here for the wedding, and then she was never coming back home because we moved straight to St. Louis, where my family
Wow.
was.
Wow.
And so it was going from the wedding to the honeymoon to St. Louis, and all she knew her whole life was college and me, and she didn't have like outside of her home other than me. And so we never really got to share life together. We never really got to know each other as partners living together, sharing life together. I mean, by this time we're already 5 years into establishing our own habits, establishing our likes or dislikes and things like that. So very early on, we started to kind of grow apart and live as strangers in the house.
Yeah.
Well, that ends up festering over time, and it ends up it's really easy just to get really busy. It's like, okay, you live your life, I live my life, you go to work, I go to work, I have my friends, you have your friends, and sometimes we do it together. And we still went to church all the time, and we still done the things. And now we got 4 kids, and later, and then that just adds a whole new mix. So when you have kids, it's like, which brings us to a whole nother topic, which I'm totally cool with talking about. But the point that I'm making is, I don't necessarily feel qualified to talk about the questions that you're asking me because I had so many failures, but I feel qualified to be able to speak to the listeners and tell them like where those failures were and where we're going and what we're doing, because I tell you that's a whole different journey and path that I'm currently on right now.
Yeah. Well, you're 100% qualified because you're going through it, you've gone through it, and you're still together, and that's critical. And it also, what you just described is the average relationship, not necessarily deploying and all those things, but I'm talking about just the fact that you get married young, not really sure what's going on. You're trying to figure it out. That's where the bulk of people are. That's why my wife and I wrote the book. That's why we do marriage coaching, because the average couple is exactly where you are. Just trying to, kind of work through this thing, because there is no manual that comes out as soon as you get out of high school to hand you this manual saying, here's how to be married, here's how to be a parent, here's how to be this and that. And even if you had that manual, it doesn't mean it's going to be what's right for you, because each couple is different, each situation is different. So I had, in all transparency, I had many failed relationships, many failed marriages before I met my wife. She had never been married before. I had been married several times before. Failed miserably. I mean, like horribly miserably, right? One of my marriages lasted 4 months and it was over. So when I met my wife, and we've been married 20 years now.
Wow, that's congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. So but when we came together, I had already failed a lot of times, and she wasn't perfect already, but she was well established in who she was, right? She was solid in who she was, and I became solid in who I was. So then when we came together, it worked out well. In fact, we started coaching couples 4 years into our marriage. We started coaching couples because we were finding out that a lot of our friends around us were in the same situation you were talking about. You're right. They're not really sure, and they're going separate ways and all this stuff. In fact, all of my wife's friends, when we got married, they were all married. Now we're the only ones that are still married. All of them are now divorced. So we just had this I don't even know what you want to call it, but we've been able to come together in a way that is beneficial to our marriage. So we want to be able to share that with others, and how we were able to do that, how we were able to come together and find interests and things like that. So, and part of that for me is make sure I honor my wife. So I don't care where I'm at. She's always with me in spirit. She's always with me in the things that I do and say. Now, I'm not perfect by any stretch of imagination, but what I'm saying is that, I don't go to a club or a bar, but if I do go to a restaurant, club, or bar, I'm not there scoping out potential prospects, right? I'm there meeting some friends or whatever, and we're talking, but I'm always thinking about my wife being there with me at the time. So the conversations I have, you know, if I see a pretty woman and she starts talking to me or whatever, I'm not, you know, the conversation doesn't change to, wow, I mean, you're kind of nice, you know. It changes that. Oh, okay. I mean, it's just a friendly conversation. It's not a potential hookup conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And there's a couple things that come to my mind that I would like to address on. And
Mhm.
one is, you know, we can look at this from every perspective of life, but we pay attention to the things that are most valuable and important to us.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure we all heard the saying that if you look at your bank statement, you'll see what's most important to you on the way that you spend your money. But if it's valuable to us, and we're going to pay attention to it, and we're going to be put more time and energy and focus on what that is. And so the priorities is a huge thing. So that's the first thing that I wanted to address, because that's something that I never really clicked for me. And something that you said a second ago is like, okay, we may not have the manual right now, and it may not be relevant to us. And I think we all have heard, but especially us married men at a young age, we all have heard like what to do, not to do. Hey, you know, don't wandering eyes and all these different things, or having priorities and all this different stuff. So I've heard it all and been through it all, but you know, I still failed. It wasn't until we were like at literally rock bottom, and even up to last year, I mean, I'm just, me and her, we're ready to throw in the towel. I mean, just be like, hey, you know what, we're done, and we're having the kid, and it's just our fourth child, and I was like, hey, you know, so many things were going on, and we just wouldn't do it. But it really took us to get to that bottom of like in the darkest place that I've ever been, to really wake me up and slap me in the face and saying, you know what,
Yeah.
what really is important? Where does God want me to be in my life? Where does he want me to be inside? And the truth is my priorities were not straight. And I didn't realize how far gone that I was. And, you know, I like to say in my dark place, but how far gone I was in my priorities, because, you know, as an entrepreneur, when I got back from Iraq in 2007, I started my first business just a few months later, and I built 6 other businesses and part of many others since then.
Mhm.
But it's always been, you know, business, God, then wife and family or whatnot. And it never was, she was always like on the bottom. And I would almost say that
Yeah.
I had her below my kids.
Yeah.
And now that we have 4 kids, it's like, you know, I always put my kids there. And during this reflection time, it really made me shift the way that I think. And when I started doing that, I'm telling you, like when I travel, when I do things, and it's no longer just, you know, me going out there and doing my thing and for business. Hey, this is my work. This is things that I have to do. It's more of like, I'm doing this because of my family. Hey, you know what? I feel bad because my wife is home with 4 kids and she's having to do all this stuff. What can I do to prep to make it easier? Do I need to prepare some meals for you before I go? Can I make sure that I have them frozen, ready to go, so that way you don't have to worry about cooking before you do something else? Hey, you need me to check in with you before I go to the airport and where I'm going? Hey, you know what? I will do that for you because that's what you need. You want to FaceTime with me? I'm totally cool, because talking about honoring, it's like I have to really understand the feelings of where she's at and why she's feeling that way. And a lot of times insecurity has to do something with that that we've done in the past. So there's no one to blame but ourselves. And I take full ownership for anything that I've done in our relationship that makes her feel, whether if she's insecure, she doesn't feel safe, she doesn't feel secure in her finances, she doesn't feel secure professionally, feel secure as a husband, a father, whatever. Everything that's her feelings are with there, I have to take ownership of it, because my priorities weren't straight, but I didn't honor her in those moments.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful that it's like, talking about getting hit by a bus. It's like you get hit by a bus, and like a mentor of mine and a friend, he says, you know, you hit by the God bus, where it's like God and boom, smashing the
Yeah.
face and says, wake up and be able to do it. And that's what I went through, and went
Well,
through some really hard times based off different choices. I mean, it's here's the other thing too, is the enemy wants nothing more but to come steal, kill, and destroy. And it's
right.
scriptural. He wants to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants to steal your business and destroy that. He wants to steal your friendships and destroy that. He wants to steal your family and destroy that. He wants to steal your marriage and take that away from you.
Yeah.
He's not going to focus on you if you're not doing anything good in God's kingdom, because he's already won you.
Yeah, he's
But
got you.
but if God's using you in a powerful way and taking you places, and you're in tune and going after that, guess what? He wants to keep you from that as much as you can. So when I got hit by that God train, that God buzz, of saying, you know what, I'm not only going to take away, you know, your marriage, I'm going to start affecting your family. I'm going to start affecting your business. I'm going to affect every relationship and thing going on in your life. And when that started happening and trickling, it's something that happens years over years over years. that seeds that start getting planted that you don't even realize it. And then all of a sudden it comes, you're like, what in the world just happened? It's not one thing. It's
Yeah.
not one time. It's not just one conversation of not talking to your wife, or not one saying goodbye,
Exactly.
one time not saying goodbye in the house, or not one time thinking about them whenever, because I'm focusing on work. I'm focusing on life. But it's those little things over and over again. And when you're not in tune with the Holy Spirit and making your wife a priority and understanding, recognizing and hearing God's voice, you're going to find yourself in that place where you're going to get hit by that bus. And then you're going to be like, how did I get here? And I have to say my wife has more grace than I ever deserved. And I'm truly thankful for that. But when we talk about honoring our wife and honoring our spouse, I mentioned priorities where it was like always business. And then it was all these different things. And I have to say it goes God, wife, family, business.
Well,
and
hold that thought 1 second, because what you just, this is the image that I have been living for my whole entire marriage, this marriage, right? The other marriages, no, like you're pointing to, we're out of alignment. And when we're in alignment, things just work better. We have to know where things fall. And, it's God, Christ, the spouse, so the husband, the wife, so forth, the spouse. So when you're in alignment, that's when things start to really gel and work well for you. So.
Oh, 100%. And I'll tell you, like, even sometimes I have to catch myself, like, I am so focused on my wife right now that's like I end up putting her above God sometimes. I'm like, okay, am I idolizing my wife more than God? And I have to put myself in check and be like, okay, when is the last time I prayed? And when is the last time I have said, hey, God, this is yours. Where do I need to go with this? Me making my own decisions. And it's where's that focus? Where's that priority? Where's it in your umbrella of what you're talking about in alignment and priority? And when it is aligned, I'll tell you, gosh, life is so much better when you are aligned.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I'm stressed, and it's just, you enjoy it. We went to the beach a couple weeks ago, and and I'll tell you, that was the first time in a while that we went to the beach as a family, and I actually enjoyed being present there. And it was actually looking at my wife in a completely different lens than I have in so many years. Yeah. I mean, when I look at my wife now, it's like, man, I remember what it was when I first saw you and when I first met you and how head over heels I was. Now I'll come downstairs and I'll see her in the kitchen. It's like, man, I just don't want to take my hands off of you. And it's been a while since I felt that way. And before it was just always, it was forced or it just never happened. And now it's like, you know what? I want to honor my wife for who she is and the sacrifices that she makes and everything she does. I mean, she gave up her career to help raise our family. I mean, to stay with the kids. I mean, she gave up her friendships to stay home with our family with me. And yet I'm the selfish one that's out there always working everything. But I say that now, that's not how I always thought. Right. I always thought it was me that's always sacrificing everything, but not really looking at her perspective of what she's sacrificing. And when I start looking at it from a lens, it started changing our relationship.
Yeah. My wife and I also did some, have done workshops over the years. We've trained hundreds and thousands of couples over the years. And this one couple was an older couple. They've been married for 25 years. And the husband was a stay-at-home. I mean, he worked from home. He's like a stockbroker kind of guy to where he would talk to the East Coast and the West Coast, but he was always be in his office. Now he was home, but he was in his office all the time. And the wife was a stay-at-home mom, and they had like 3 or 4 kids and stuff. And she just wanted him to come out of the office just to have dinner with the family. That was her only request, right? Because he's a really good guy. And she knew exactly where he was at any given time because he's right there at home in the office. Yeah. So we had this exercise called knees to knees, to where we have them face each other and then just talk about simple issues, nothing heavy. And then we have this thing called speaker listener technique. We're using a technique to have this conversation. And she said that she wants him to come out and have dinner with her and the kids at dinner time, and he's supposed to paraphrase back to her what she just said. This guy, 25 years of marriage, he could not paraphrase back to her what she was saying. It took us 30 minutes, JR, 30 minutes to get this guy to understand. All he had to do was repeat back to her what she said. And when he finally did it, I'm shortening this story because I could go on for a half hour talking about it. When he finally paraphrased back to her that she wanted him to just come out, because he was saying, look, you and the kids, you got all the money you need. I'm working at home. You know where I am. I'm not cheating on that. When he said, so what you're saying is you want me to come out and have dinner with you and the kids. And it was like this heavy anchor or weight just fell off of her. She got this glow on her face. She said, yes. He finally got it after 25 years. So I'm telling you, it's not what you have gone through and are going through and getting through is something that's very common, and that's why we're having these conversations.
Well, I want to hit on that just because this is more recently. It just happened to me 2 nights ago, with my wife. But and to the point with that guy, I can relate to him so much. Because in our mind, we feel like we're sacrificing, we're doing all these different things for the family, and we're hearing our spouse talk to us, and like they're shouting at us in a way of what they want, but we're hearing something totally different. And I think over years, when I talk about that seed that just keeps getting planted over and over again, like it almost becomes PTSD. And this is something I'm struggling with internally with me. It's like, okay, if I say this, she's going to react this way. Okay, she asked me this question. It's like, gosh, now this is gonna be a long, drawn out question. What do I do now? We go out to a party and we get in the car. We're at a church event with friends, and we there's something that I might have said something that I thought was just totally normal and with hanging out with guys, whatever, nothing inappropriate, whatever. But we get in the car and it's like, she wants to ask me, like, hey, can I ask you a question? It's like, oh, great. Now she's gonna judge me about what I said, what I did, how I interact with these people, how I embarrass her. It's like, okay, great. What do you want to say now? What do you want to complain about now?
Yeah.
But in reality, it could be something so simple. And the reason why I want to bring that up is because, even just 2 nights ago, my wife was just wanting to ask me a simple question. And we're laying in bed. She was like, hey, can I ask you a question? And when I heard that, it triggered me. And I was like, is this going to be a long conversation? Like, do I really need to, what's it about? What did I do now? This is like 11 p.m. at night. And all I want to do is go to bed. And after saying that, she was triggered, and, it ended up making her cry and getting her upset. And she still, even right now, never asked me that question or whatever it was. So I don't even know what she wanted to ask me.
Wow.
But she did tell me this. She goes, I just wanted to ask you a simple yes or no question. It was nothing bad. I wasn't looking for a long conversation. And in that moment, like I literally, like my throat just went down to my gut. And I just wanted to throw up. I was like, man, I just failed. And I just screwed up. And because I didn't take the time to really hear her heart and what she said. And immediately I just automatically went to a place of thinking that I did something wrong. There's going to be a long conversation. We're going to end up having a fight and all these other things. But all she wanted was me and to ask a simple question.
Here's a pro tip for you. And this is going to be part of our MVP calls that we're going to start up the first of the year. I think you're going to really enjoy those calls. But it's called Make It Safe to Connect. So when your partner comes to you, make it safe for them to connect because you want to be safe to connect with them. If you have a question or concern or comment, you want to be able to go to them and say, hey, I'm just concerned about this, or I have a question about that. So make it safe for them to respond, to ask you a question. Yeah, it may be something heavy, but it may not be. So don't assume that it's going to automatically be something heavy, right? Just say, hey, look, let me make it safe for you to, ask me anything. My wife and I have such an open line of communication now. It wasn't always this way, but now there's literally nothing that I have done in the past that she doesn't know about. And there's nothing that she can't ask me about. I said, look, ask me anything. I may not be able to answer you right away. I may have to go back and process it first, but feel free to ask me anything without any kind of lashing out or back at you from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's so important. We have to feel safe. And I think that when we don't feel safe, then we end up getting triggered. And it boils down to your growing up in your childhood. Like, what was that relationship like with your family and your parents and things like that? And how was that dynamic? Did you discuss problems? Did you discuss issues that went on, and did it ever get resolved? Because I can tell you, a lot of our issues in our marriage is me not knowing how to handle conflict resolution. And because of that, it's easy for me to just like shuffle things push underneath the rug and move on and forget that it's ever happened. And then I would wake up and think it's a brand new day, and I move on and never even go back to it. And we did that for like, 13 years. We just celebrated 14 years. So think about how long it's been. 13 and a half years we've been doing that. And she adapted to the way that I worked, and she eventually got sick of it. Me and my wife, we couldn't have a conversation without it turning into a fight. And when it got to a fight, neither of us knew how to fight fair.
Right.
It would get so bad, and it would even traumatize our kids that, like, man, what are we doing to our kids?
You're gonna want to order two copies of the book, and had you. I had copies when we met, dude. I could have gave you 2 copies, but you're gonna want our 2 copies. The reason why I say that, because in it we talk about communication, conflict resolution, how to forgive. I mean, all those things are in the book. And JR, we are actually over time. You've been a phenomenal guest host and stuff. I really appreciate your time with me today. But we are over time, so we're going to have to end this for today. But I'm going to have you back for sure. I really appreciate you. Folks, you can get a free ebook from our website. You can take a 5-minute love assessment free from our website. You can go to IamLoveBuilders.com. We want you to become MVPs for your relationship. You're going to be the most valuable partner in your relationship. And come the first of the year, we're going to start these MVP calls once a month to really help you. And just these little simple things, we've been talking about today with JR. Hey, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So we will see you on the next show. Thank you.